Recently, I've seen videos of people using aim trainers for a month, so I decided to try it myself. It was basically inspired by Penguify, since he played Apex and I'd just gotten into that game. I was a beginner to FPS games, so I thought it would be especially interesting and fun to see my improvement and also keep track of it in a graph, because we all love graphs and stats, don't we? I just wanted to see my horrendous starting stats, because they were going to be awful. So here it is. My journey as a complete newbie to FPS games using an aim trainer daily for 1 month. To preface, I had been playing Apex Legends for about a month, but before that I had played no online FPS games other than CSGO in middle school when visiting other people's houses, and I was always bottom fragging. So the first thing I did was research sensitivity. I've been playing on 3200 DPI and 5 times sensitivity on Apex. If you don't know what that means, here's a graph of the most common FPS sensitivities. Basically, my settings were so sensitive it could be compared to the average Twitter user. So I changed my settings all the way down to 1600 DPI and 2 times sensitivity in both Apex and Kovaak, which is still very high. I just wanted a gradual transition. I played a set inspired by Penguify and Sparky's training and other documents I found. I also focused a lot on tracking, since it was a very important aspect of Apex gameplay. The exercises I practice are listed in their categories. Tracking, which is just following the target. Flicking, which is just aiming but faster. Reflex, which is just flicking but with reaction time included. I practice this list every day for a month. 1 month later, the nice thing about Kovaak is that they graph your results for you and keep track of all of it for you, so that you can just look at your progress from there. This is not sponsored by Kovaak, by the way, because why the fuck would it be? Also, before I move on to that, I should mention that I had to swap in my computer because it was defective and forgot to note my sensitivity settings at the time, so I accidentally made it lower but got used to it eventually. Anyways, back to Kovaak statistics. I took the scores and calculated percentage increases of the original score to give a statistical comparison of the aim. Anyways, look, it's all green. It's almost as if practicing something every day makes you better at it. The reason why reflex flick score is 0 because I didn't actually hit any of them when I first tried the exercise. I only added it in later after a couple of weeks after I actually got like decent at reflex flick easy and was actually hitting most of the targets. Hence why there is also no day 0 footage, because I'm not going to show that. Explaining the graph. Alright, so this graph has many words, so it probably needs an explanation, because to be honest, there was probably an easier or better way to represent this, but I'm not a fucking statistician. Basically, there's an initial score and the maximum score. The maximum score is used as the scale, so the starting score at each month is scaled to that maximum. It is basically to show how much of a difference in max score there was for each exercise over 1 month. Or between min and max. So yeah, you can kind of see that. Just fucking look at it, and if big gap, big improvement. So the majority of the original starting scores have like a 40% or less points of the max score. So basically, it's like, oh yeah, I improved a bit. Cool. The second graph, it's just a percentage increase in the maximum score for 1 month of training. Which was mentioned earlier. Basically, the bigger the better, you know, you get what it means. A 200% increase in something is like basically doubling it. As you can see, my flicking and aiming had the most improvement, having like a 6 times improvement for easy reflex flick, which is quite good. Like, considering that I basically had Parkinson's when I started, that is a very, very good improvement. My tracking increased by around 20 to 40% for each of the scores. Now, for some general gameplay comparisons, I'll show this clip of the first time I played Apex. It's like watching a bot play the game, because I knew nothing about FPS games. It's somewhat embarrassing, so I'll end it here. And now I'll show this clip about a month later where I was actually like okay at the game. I could play. Like, I was still a bot, but I could play. Now keep in mind, I learned a lot more in Apex after 1 month of playing, so that's probably puts in a lot more towards the skill area. My skill and aim in FPS games had an immense improvement. After 1 month, I've seen an incredible improvement across all scores and skills, in particular, reflex flicks, considering I was fucking dog shit at the beginning and I'm now within the 70th percentile according to Kovaak for both flick scores, which is like, it's like okay, it's like not great, but yeah, considering it's like 1 month, that's pretty okay. I couldn't even hit a single target in reflex flick fair at the beginning, which is pretty pathetic. A nearly 600% increase in score is some pretty insane levels of improvement, especially over just 1 month. And in games, I feel like I'm definitely hitting shots more often. I can actually use the wingman, and I've been able to carry my friends that are new to the game. My rank is like bronze because I don't really play Apex, but I'll give it a go later. In any case, this is what 1 month of Kovac training does for a complete beginner at FPS games. And you too can have mediocre aim if you practice for 1 month from zero skill. Probably. I can't guarantee it because you just might be shit. Anyways, I'm going to be releasing an update on my progress in aim training with Kovac later, so be sure to tune into the next video if you found this interesting and are curious to how I'll improve later. I was also recording the statistics for nearly every single game from when I began playing Apex, so if that interests you, then I'll leave a link to that video here and in the description. Well, if I've created it at that point. It'll be there someday, like probably.